Welcome to the Mashery webinar, Put Your Buy Button Anywhere. My name is Andy Raskin. I'm Mashery Director of Product Marketing. And joining me for the webinar is Chris Lippy. He's Mashery Vice President of Product and Services. And the webinar we expect to take around 30 to 40 minutes. And we'll be getting into everything you want to know about enabling commerce through APIs. We'll take questions, we'll address questions at the end, so feel free to type questions into the question box or even through the chat window as well. The reason that Mashery is talking about distributed commerce and putting your buy button in all kinds of new places is that this is going to happen. It's already starting to happen, of course. Commerce enabled on all kinds of connected devices, from smartphones to televisions. We recently saw Samsung release an app refrigerator, and the possibilities there, ordering coffee on the refrigerator for when you're going to be picking it up on your way to work, all kinds of things. And a couple of weeks ago, Mashery announced a new offering called Mashery Distributed Commerce, which lets companies take part in this revolution. Mashery Distributed Commerce lets you enable secure purchases on any app, and that app can be on any device and on any social network. So the same kind of things that Mashery lets you do with all kinds of other content and services through APIs, we're now making possible with commerce. If you think about it, traditionally customers, in order to interact or transact with a company, had to somehow enter that company's context. They had to enter the seller's world. That could look like visiting a brick and mortar store, visiting the company's website. But no matter how that happened, the transaction virtually always took place within a context that was controlled by the seller. What we're seeing now with the proliferation of connected devices is that consumers are taking control of the context of the interaction. And what that means is that merchants of all kinds are going to have to find ways to get their transactional capabilities, their commerce engine, if you will, into that consumer context. So it represents a challenge because how do you build all that? But also a huge opportunity because consumers are really surrounding themselves with all kinds of touch points that didn't exist before. How do you do this? So the traditional answer is to build essentially one-off projects to reach each of these touch points. But as everyone knows, that can get incredibly expensive, and it's very difficult to reuse the work. You want to build, say, commerce into a television. You build that project, but then what if you have a partner that you want to sort of co-brand something else you're offering also through a television? That's a separate project. Of course, the better way, just like the better way for distributing all kinds of other content and services, is with an API. And the API creates a platform, turns your commerce engine into a platform for enrolling developers. Those can be your own developers, those can be partners and affiliates who are going to essentially distribute your commerce engine. So Mashery Distributed Commerce is a platform for releasing APIs, and in particular commerce APIs. So just like with other APIs that Mashery powers, we offer a distribution network for making those commerce APIs highly available, a traffic manager for making sure that the apps and partners who are going to be using those commerce APIs and exposing your buy button are authorized to do so. A developer partner portal that lets any partner understand how to build your commerce capabilities into their own apps and devices. And finally, reporting and analytics. So not only what APIs are being called and how often they're being called, but how are those translating into how are those converting into revenue for your company? So purchases, subscriptions, etc. Before I turned it over to Chris to talk about exactly what Mashery Distributed Commerce is. I just want to give a brief overview of Mashery itself for anyone who is new to the company. So we are the trusted provider of API management, strategy, and services for some of the world's most popular brands and API programs. You can see among the logos here Netflix, Best Buy, Comcast, Expedia, New York Times, Guardian. These are some of the largest and the most kind of pioneering in the world of companies in the world of APIs. Mashery is the leading provider of API technology and services. We were founded about 5 years ago. We now manage APIs for over 100 brands. Those API programs bring in over 120,000 developers, and we actually market to those. We market new APIs to those developers through our developer outreach program, and those developers have created over 30,000 apps on our customers' APIs. The technology we offer, as I said, API traffic management, a distribution network for APIs, the partner portals, and the analytics. We then also have separate teams within Mashery that do the developer outreach. So you've released an API, whether that's commerce or any other kind of content and services. Now, how are you going to get developers to actually use it? And so we have a whole team focused on that. And then finally, API strategy services. We have an in-house full team that works with our customers to design APIs and figure out what the best way is to roll them out in ways that align with our customers' goals and strategies. So now I'm going to turn it over to Chris to talk about what makes distributed commerce and commerce APIs possible.
Thanks, Andy. Hi, everyone. My name is Chris Lippi. I'm VP of Product and Services. Just before we really dig in here, we've been in the API management space, as Andy articulated, for 5 years. We do billions of API calls. We've been working with retail customers, e-com, travel industry for quite some time, and really as we were seeing what was happening in the world of web APIs, even 3-4 years ago, the trend of how do we securely take payment, right? So how do we allow purchases through an API? How do we broaden our affiliate programs? Was something that we started talking about with some of the large retail customers that you saw on that customer logo slide. So we really started working with these partners, spending time thinking about our own product and our service, and frankly, over the last 14 or 16 months, we've been working on this announcement. So we're really happy to be able to announce this distributed commerce offering that extends the traditional Mashery service and allows our customers who have a need to expose commerce APIs to do so securely. So 3 things are included as part of this announcement. We're really happy to report that we're the first and only API management services company that's been certified as a PCI DSS Level 1 service provider. We'll talk a little bit more about what that means and why it's important in a second. That's a lot of work for those of you that have spent time working around PCI compliance. We're the first and only available that's out there in the market. Mashery 3 years ago was also one of the early adopters of OAuth as a protocol. As part of this launch, we've now adopted the OAuth 2.0 specification. Again, we'll talk more about that, what that means in terms of commerce APIs, and then a number of security features that we've built into the product that allows business leaders that want to manage a commerce-related API to do so, knowing that they can put business rules into the product that even their own people are forced to comply with in order to secure the API channel as ready for business in terms of commerce. So there's a couple of patterns here in terms of what we've seen and what we've done with our customers in the retail, e-commerce, travel space for the last few years. There's a couple patterns to the way that people are doing this. The easiest just to understand, but also the most challenging and difficult from an information security and compliance perspective, is this first, which is really, you're sending credit card information straight through the API. You might be already doing this in your own mobile apps, that are custom built, but when, we all have affiliate partners, super affiliates, and, casually known affiliates, and so on, and really the idea of securely sending credit card information through the API is with a broader level of partner and affiliate partner interaction, significant and a new trend. The way that this works is effectively, some partner application is accepting credit card information on your behalf, and actually just making an API call through into your e-commerce service with please purchase this for John Q. Public. So when you have exposed a commerce API in this fashion, every partner in this value chain must be PCI compliant.
So Chris, the slide shows a partner app, and that's of course one of the huge use cases that we see. But this app, could it also be an app developed in-house?
Absolutely. So going back to the prior slide that you talked to, Andy, that showed getting into the context of strategic partners or even internal apps. This value chain here could be custom apps that you've built. You might have had agencies that you work with building iPhone apps or Android apps or set-top boxes or game consoles or whatever it might be. They can be things that are bespoke for you, or they can be big affiliate partners that you've worked with for some time, or they could be affiliate partners that have wanted to do this for a long time and you haven't had a way to do that safely. So we're seeing this more and more as a trend, and this ultimately, in terms of moving the buy button, off of your website and out into the place where your customers are, this is the Cadillac, right? So this is, the best user experience is that, that customer is where they're at, and you need to be where they're at, and they need to be able to buy the things that you offer in places that they're at, and more that's not your website is the main point. Second pattern here, and this one is clearly one that many are starting with, is using OAuth, and I won't bore everyone with what OAuth is in great detail. The way to really kind of understand OAuth is that it allows you to follow a pattern that says use my credit card on file. So if you look at someone like a Best Buy has a reward zone program where your accounts can be managed on bestbuy.com, similar to Amazon.com. And probably most of the retailers on the call today have a notion, obviously, of customer accounts. OAuth is a very API relevant protocol that effectively allows you to connect to your account in your .com and do that safely and securely while allowing a third-party partner to bind that user of theirs to that account. So basic high level, kind of taking it out of the weeds a little bit and been back into high level is you can still allow people to purchase goods and services that you offer, as a merchant or seller of product, without having credit card transactions run through your network. But you're using something like OAuth and credit card on file in your own .com to safely have that purchase go through.
So I think this pattern you'd probably see more where in kind of public developer API, open API, where
That's right.
the partner is not so well known.
Yep.
So that partner
Right.
might build an app that allows someone to do a transaction, but they're never going to see the credit card number. So
That's right.
kind of keep that.
That's right. And there's a lot of thought that goes into which of these two patterns, whether it's the credit card info over the API, as this slide is articulating at a high level, or whether or not you're using credit card on file, and they can coexist. You can move your buy button into third-party places, and have different affiliate programs for your closest super affiliate partners that you might work with, where you've gone to the effort of understanding what their compliance posture is with PCI, and you're allowing yourself to be out of the user context directly, but still fulfilling purchases. Or you can run with a more casual understanding of who that partner app, and utilize something like OAuth in order to still engage with customers in the places that they are. So drilling in a little bit about PCI compliance, and I think probably everyone on the call has a rudimentary, at least, understanding of PCI. Payment card industry has put a data security standard in place that says, listen, if you're accepting cardholder information, these are the security things and business process and technical things that need to put in place to become compliant. And there's different levels of compliance. You can do things like self-assessments if you're a low volume merchant or a low volume service provider, or there's higher levels that you're a name brand and you're doing hundreds of thousands of transactions a month, and risk level to either the Visa or the MasterCard network is high. So for Mashery, what's important is that we're a service provider. So Mashery offers its product as software as a service, and as a result, Mashery is potentially in scope of commerce-related API transactions. So in that first model of the API is actually handling cardholder data, you really have to work with an API management provider who has a report on compliance, or a ROC, as this first bullet talks about. You have to have a level 1 level of service provider compliance, which is the highest level that you can get as a service provider. Mashery is not a merchant, but we help enable this, right? So our customers that are running Commerce API programs use us as a service provider to get to market faster, and all of the features that you talked about earlier. We are in scope of that. And with this distributed commerce announcement, we're happy to report that we have an available ROC. What this means is that our customers' information security groups can look at that ROC and say, Mashery's taken care of, they're in scope, but I don't have to go and audit them. I don't have to effectively incur additional PCI liability and have my auditors go and inspect Mashery. I can take their ROC, it's good enough for me. Visa says it's okay, MasterCard says it's okay, I as a merchant says it's okay. This differs quite a bit from traditional software vendors. So you'll find software vendors out there that say we're PCI ready and whatnot. Basically, what all of those are code for is that it's yours to figure out, right? So if you buy somebody's software or hardware or whatever it is that you might be getting to help manage API content distribution management, if it's deployed as software or hardware, it's in scope. You can still do it. You can bring it into your data center, but your auditors need to take a look at it and how you're controlling it. Difference with Mashery is that we've already taken care of that work for you, so there's nothing more additional that you need to do in working with your API management vendor to get out to the market quickly. So the other one on OAuth and why OAuth, really I talked about this, but just to kind of drill in a little bit more is that this allows you to say cardholder data is not running through my API, but I'm still able to have a commerce-related API. So the pattern would be they're still browsing your product catalog, they're still looking at inventory availability and whatnot, but when it comes to the actual purchase, the third-party partner is not actually taking the cardholder information. They're just attached to an account on record. So affiliates that you might work with can still help sell more product without seeing the payment or password, username, password information that your customers may have. So Mashery offers an OAuth accelerator that just really helps you get there a whole lot faster. So time to market is important. It's inexpensive to get there. We guide you through something that's as complex as OAuth and help you get this out to market quickly. So a couple of case studies. So Best Buy, we talked about a little bit. Best Buy has been a customer of ours for quite some time, and the way that they're using or running with commerce APIs is really using that OAuth pattern that we talked about. So they have a rich API program that's been around for over 3 years now, and a rich, valuable reward zone account. Being able to attach yourself to your reward zone account while you're on a third-party application or context. It could be an affiliate website. It can be that Samsung refrigerator. Maybe you upgrade your refrigerator. I don't know, but so
it's gonna happen.
It's gonna happen. So the OAuth accelerator is helping them get there a whole lot faster, and they're one of our first users of this distributed commerce package that we've launched. Drilling into kind of some of the things that you should be thinking about if you're exploring and releasing a commerce API is really to be able to launch a commerce API. If you don't have an API program today, you should really start thinking about the overall program, and it's not just about the actual purchase API. There's many supporting APIs that you should really start to think about and probably launch and get to market quickly. So you might be working on a product catalog or inventory type API, and if you're brick and mortar retailer as well as an e-commerce play, you might be doing store locators and whatnot. The main point is start thinking about the program in general around all the different APIs that you might want to expose. Start involving your InfoSec team, right? This is new. The world of moving your buy button into third-party context is something that makes some security organizations a little bit queasy and nervous. Different if you're doing it yourself and you're building your own apps. As you think about exposing this to third-party partners, there'll be a lot of things that your organization will have to work out in terms of how do we vet partners and their compliance to PCI DSS and so on. So those things take time. It takes time for your InfoSec organizations, what we've seen, to get ready for this. So start working them in parallel to building out your API program. That will start to help you make decisions around, are you taking the OAuth pattern and the credit card on file pattern, or actually taking the payment information directly through your API, and possibly even both, right? So if you're working with your partners within your business and thinking through the security requirements of your business and the types of affiliate programs you want to run, great to be thinking through as you're really kind of structuring your program. What we've also found, many of the people on the call today are, really kind of API evangelists within their organization. They're thinking about this holy grail of moving the buy button off, but they may not be part of a marketing organization or whatnot. Almost, most retailers out there today have affiliate marketing groups internal, and what we found is they're great resources to start thinking this through. They'll help you find the right super affiliate launch partners, or the ones that you're really close to, where you can start designing those enabling APIs like the product catalog and the inventory tracking web services along with them, and they'll be delighted just at having that as well. I guarantee if they're screen scraping you or just taking URLs from the affiliate network that you use today, exposing an API to your most valuable affiliate partners, they'll be delighted with richer access to your content. And then you engage them in how they would want to actually manage the purchase transactions. Today they're popping customers into your shopping cart. That may still be something that you want to do for sure, but that doesn't mean that you don't want to also allow some of your most valued affiliate partners that might have their own user bases to explore doing those commerce transactions directly themselves, either using the OAuth credit card on file approach or taking the actual transaction straight through the API. And then finally, and very selfishly, as you are thinking about this and really exploring who can help you get there, There's many people out there that are working around helping companies expose their APIs and find new distribution channels and customer channels, revenue channels. Make sure that you're thinking about security, make sure that you're thinking about PCI DSS, and find a partner that really understands this space. And in our belief, make sure that you've got one who's got a rock as well. So it'll make everything go a whole lot easier. Mashery, in terms of how we help, again, we've been doing this for many years. We're the leader in this space. We're software as a service, so the quickest time to market, we can effectively, with our always-on, on-demand service offering, launch those enabling APIs as extremely quickly and have those APIs available to your affiliate partners, and have you start to work out what the actual commerce portion of your API is going to look like. We have a great wealth of information in terms of the PCI DSS requirements and how they relate to what's going on in distributed commerce. So you can lean on our services organization and get access to our InfoSec folks that are really deep in PCI and led our efforts over the last 14, 15 months to get there, to just understand what you might need to do. Developer outreach services, if your strategy is to really kind of go after what we call affiliate 2.0, partners that have engineering resources, that can consume APIs and are innovative about consumer electronics and where they're deploying their applications. Our developer outreach services, are at your disposal and trying to figure out how to go and attract those new partners to look for new revenue channels for you. And then the API strategy services are, these are guys that smoke pipes and have leather patches on their sport coats and think about the strategy of distributed commerce and help your executives think through how this might change e-commerce for your organization. Finally, just to kind of to finish up here, if you look at web APIs, APIs aren't new. I mean, APIs have been around for a long time, and supply chain integration and whatnot from the late 90s and everything that we've been doing around web services, not new. What's really kind of changing here and the evolution of web APIs, it really kind of started with Google Maps exposing a read-oriented API in mid-last decade, and then Twitter showing us all what a write-oriented API could do for an ecosystem, and the speed with which organizations can grow, to really today where we see this trend, people that are selling goods and services through their API, and Mashery helping customers get there is really what we think the next step of evolution of APIs is, and specifically web APIs. So we're really excited to have launched the distributed commerce and start really working with our customers to see this accelerate and figure out a way to buy our shopping list on our Samsung TV with our recurring order of things down at the Safeway, right? So at this point, we'll open up the floor for questions.
Yeah, so we actually have a lot of questions here. If we don't get to your question, feel free to also, you can email me at andy@mashery.com, and we can talk directly. Just let's try to get into it a little bit. Chris, so one question is, what is the what has to be done on the retailer's end to integrate Mashery into an e-commerce solution?
Sure. Yeah, so that's a general Mashery service question. We make it really easy for you. As a software as a service vendor, you work with our implementation team, and if there's an API that's exposed either through the e-com platform that you've purchased from some vendor, or maybe it's a homegrown e-com platform, as soon as you open up your web APIs, we adapt to your API. We sit in front of your API. That traffic runs through us as a proxy service, which just basically means the traffic runs through our network first, and all of the controls that we put in place are then enforced at that point. So the integration cost, there really isn't much of an integration. It's really more of a configuration implementation where our teams are working with you in terms of What do you want your API to be called? How do you want to onboard your partners into the program? What kind of security policies do you need to put in place? Building out documentation on the developer portal website that you'll get from us. So really it's quite simple. We have customers that we get live in 2 weeks. We have customers that we're doing lots of work with them from a professional services standpoint to do things like protocol translation or really custom security things. So we have customers that launch in a month and customers that launch in a couple of months, but it's really straightforward. The integration cost is really not there. It's more of a configuration implementation.
And for the APIs that customers want to mark as PCI compliant, I think it's just a box that we check, and then that enables all kinds of security features, right?
That's right. So the security enhancements that we talked about, you will effectively define. So you'll have many different APIs. You'll have that product catalog API, an inventory API, your store locator, and whatnot. Those don't need to have the same security posture that taking orders through your API will. So for those services that are in scope for PCI compliance, in our product you will define those as being under scope, and that changes the product. So things like it forces SSL, from a network perspective. You are not allowed to change security on that without specific administrative rights. So there's lots of things that we've put in place where your business leaders can set policy in terms of what the Commerce API security posture needs to be, and no one can change them other than people that you've granted access to do so.
So we had a follow-up question from the same person. So what if just the .com commerce site doesn't yet expose content via an API in JSON or XML or something like that? What then?
Yeah, so I mean, at the end of the day, you have to have an ability to expose content somehow. I think for the most part, any e-commerce system is, we're going to find something we can hook into somewhere. This is not about screen scraping though, right? So this is about going in and finding the building blocks that might be on within the e-commerce site. We are finding wherever that hook is, so we can adapt to it. It can be legacy stuff. It could be stuff that the engineers in your organization aren't necessarily proud of, and there's a lot you can do with the Mashery platform to clean up the look and feel of it. So you may find that there's some old XML RPC or some SOAP API that exists deep buried into the into your system. You don't want to necessarily expose that to modern developers. We'll do protocol translation to make it look a little bit more modern. We'll put a nice name on it. We can rename things like the methods that you're calling and so on. So for the most part, we always find something that we can hook into. But at the end of the day, if need our partner engineers and our company, our customer sites to help us find where those building blocks are.
So one next question is, how is Mashery distributed commerce better than like a traditional affiliate program like a link share or a commission junction?
Sure. So one thing, and we've heard this from many of our retail customers, and there's definitely Amazon envy out there. From Amazon and eBay have run their own affiliate programs for a long time, and I'd really advocate that you go take a look at how they do it, because it's still considered best in class even a decade on. This doesn't necessarily remove your need to have traditional affiliate programs, and you need to go work with your affiliate marketing group in-house to kind of really discover what the strategy is of that group right now. You will still have people that take your links, put them on your blogs, are grabbing widgets, catalog widgets, and putting it on their website and things like that. You probably, if you scratch beneath the surface with your affiliate marketing group, those aren't necessarily where all your big bucks are coming from. But added together, is still a valuable resource chain. What we're seeing, in this movement of distributed commerce is that as you open up better content, it attracts the best affiliate partners, right? It attracts people who can afford expensive engineers to go and build unique experiences that attract certain segments of consumers that you're trying to get, soccer moms or hockey moms or whoever you're looking to get. So if you can afford the engineers that can consume APIs and build unique experiences on connected devices, typically means you're doing something right. So what we've seen is that API-powered affiliate programs is where the majority of revenue starts to come from, if it's not already with early stage adopters of API programs. So just to reiterate, it doesn't necessarily say stop doing what you're doing with Linkshare or Commission Junction or any of the other hundreds of affiliate networks that are out there. Still very valuable to work with. What we would just say is that the world is moving to a different technology stack, and it's less about websites, and those networks really rely on websites. And
yeah, that's what I would say is those networks are just so geared to you put a link on a publisher's site, an affiliate site, and the user clicks on that link, comes back to the merchant site. So both for the user and for the affiliate, an API makes for a much better experience because that user is not leaving the affiliate's context.
That's right, and again, it's down to the connected devices too, which is what a lot of this is about. And there are a lot of people working on click to buy on a TV set, right? The holy grail of a retailer of I'm watching a TV show and I like that handbag and I want to buy it right now from Saks. So there are a lot of people that are working on that, and that's not what you do with an traditional affiliate network. That's what you do with distributed commerce and APIs.
Right, so the API lets you continue to watch that TV show.
That's right.
Do the purchase
while your wife buys the handbag, right? And you scream in horror.
Yeah. It's probably the opposite in my family, but
oh, you're buying the handbag? All right.
Other things, but yeah, it's my wife who screams in horror. So another question, interesting one. So PCI, we've been talking about credit cards, but is Mashery distributed commerce and is Mashery's PCI compliance valuable for other types of data? So healthcare data, other sensitive customer information.
Yeah, so there's a lot of overlap in the security standards, whether it's HIPAA, what people are doing around PII, although PII is a term, not a compliance standard. So the bottom line on this is that the security practices that are dictated to become a PCI DSS compliant merchant or service provider, there's a lot of overlap to just good best practice of managing software and IT. And we have customers in healthcare that look at our PCI compliance and say, yeah, that's good enough for me in terms of what we're trying to accomplish with our API. So what it really just means is that you're doing the right things. And as a software as a service company, it's really important that we're doing the right things with our customers' precious data, regardless of whether or not it's within e-commerce or data services or financial services or anything else. So long story short, it's absolutely critical that any API management solution that you're choosing is doing the right thing around security, and PCI compliance is a great indication that they are.
Great. And so we'll take one more final question. And again, if your question wasn't answered, you can email me directly, andy@mashery.com, and we'll get you an answer individually, directly. So the last question is for payments and commerce that flow through Mashery distributed commerce, who's doing the actual payment settlement?
I see. It's still the merchant, right? So you need to be a merchant to be able to integrate with payment gateways and so on. So the way that this works is we're a conduit to safely get the data into your own data center, but you're still using the same platform that you have today in order to manage the actual payment gateway transaction. You're using your own banks and whatever gateway provider that you're using. So we're not saying that all of a sudden Mashery is going to become the big settlement engine for this, and our customers really don't want that, right? They want us to focus on our core, which is around helping find new revenue channels, managing complex ecosystems, hundreds of partners, who's driving the most value, and so on. But not forcing our customers to come up with the different means for for doing the settlement is what is important for our customers today.
Yeah, I think the way we think about it is that right now, if merchants are looking to open up these new consumer touch points that are commerce enabled, and every time they open up a new one on a new device or some new touch point, they're essentially extending their network. And without Mashery, they're also extending their PCI liability potentially. With Mashery, they're able to extend that network through a channel that has already been audited as PCI compliant.
That's right.
And the actual settlement of the transaction happens just the way it normally does.
That's right.
With any other.
Yeah, and that's important, right? So your InfoSec teams, are delighted when they're just looking at no increased liability, and it's the same flows that they've already vetted and trusted, and no additional risk to the business.
All right, great. So thanks, Chris, and thank you everybody for participating and listening in on the webinar today. The webinar, put your buy button anywhere.